Your circle will change as you accomplish your goals and level up. Everybody can't go.
And we live. Welcome to another happy Wednesday to all of you guys. Welcome to another Everybody Can't Go Convo. Today I have with me an author, a speaker, a transformation strategist specializing in self-help, inspiration, and vulnerability. And did I mention author? Author of Sis, You're Copper. We are bringing to you guys today Jess Human. Thank you for being with us today, Jess. How are you?
I'm living the dream. Thank you so much for having me, for holding space and bringing thought partners together with you on your journey. I appreciate the invite, and I'm excited for our conversation today.
Awesome. And we appreciate you as well. So we'll go ahead and get straight into it. Go ahead, introduce yourself, even though I just gave you an intro. Give us an introduction to who you are. Tell us about your business and what you have going on like right now and what you have coming up.
Absolutely. So I think I like to say I'm the quintessential big sis. So I'm the sis that's going to be real with you and let you know like some of the stuff I've gone through so that you can better see yourself in your journey and accept where you are in your journey. I'm an author, speaker, and strategist. I work with individuals and businesses around diversity, equity, and inclusion, holistic wellness, and belonging and culture and organizational culture. So I can help you build a strategy around your SOP and training, and I can also help you build a holistic wellness framework for your own mental wellness and mental well-being. I am a speaker. I do keynote speeches and keynote addresses, specifically around Heritage and Culture Month. So if you're looking for someone that can speak during Mental Health Awareness Month or Pride Month or during Black History Month, I'm your gal. Put me on the books. And then I also do training and workshops to help your teams think strategically around solutions related to diversity, equity, and inclusion, organizational culture, and change management. So I really help people move through change. And I do that with a focus on vulnerability, honesty, and humanity. And so that's what I offer. That's what I do. Some things that are coming up for me. I have a few speaking gigs lined up where I'm going to be working with some folks in California, some folks in Detroit, and some folks in Grand Rapids. And I also am moving. This is not known, but I'm moving to a different state soon. So I'll be working with some different communities across state lines coming up soon. So that'll be public soon.
Awesome. All right, y'all. Y'all see, y'all heard it here first. And even if you didn't, act like you did. So, in light of Mental Health Awareness Month, we talk a lot around here about boundaries, about self-care not being a luxury. Self-care every day is important, and self-care is not expensive. And so with all this buzz about self-care and mindfulness and mental health awareness and everything during this month, I noticed that one of the areas that you spoke on previously, you talked about self-acceptance. And that really stuck out to me because I was like, ooh, self-acceptance. Even on the podcast, we'll talk a lot about self-awareness and emotional intelligence of self and different things like that. And I'm like, I have not talked about or delved into, but went into that self-acceptance piece as an area. And when I started to think about it, we talk about all these components of mental health, but we don't touch on that. So what is that convo like with you?
Yeah. And I think that so I literally just had this conversation with a friend when we think about Mental Health Awareness Month, I feel like a lot of times people are giving us manifestation tools, mindfulness meditations, all of these resources to help you find balance in your life. And one of the things that I've struggled with in my entire life is anxiety and depression. So I name it in my book, actually, Sister Copper. I like to say that this is a educational memoir. It's a self-help book, but it provides a, a copper alchemy. It provides a formula for seeking balance in all areas in your life. And so I have 5 elements. I start with spirituality because my spirituality keeps me grounded. But when I'm not aligned spiritually and I'm not connected with the divine or with God, I'm off balance all over the place. And so I talk about in my book being off alignment with my spiritual connection because I'm a queer woman, right? And I grew up in a Pentecostal apostolic church. They do not accept me. They condemn me while I'm in church. And so it really affected my relationship with God. And when my relationship with God is off, I'm completely off. And so I talk about spirituality and what type of spiritual self-care you can be doing, right? I start my day with prayer every day. I spend time at my prayer space. My altar is what I call it. And I spend time talking to God, not just asking what I want, but talking through what I'm going through, thinking about thanking, showing gratitude, right? So my prayer life is really important to me. Then we talk about mental and emotional health. And I think that we know when we're stress is a normal part of our life, but I have my brain processes information and has different things going on due to trauma in my background, due to environmental elements of living in the Midwest during winter when we don't get enough sun, right? Like there are all these things that cause chaos and wreak havoc in my brain. So what are the things that I'm doing to manage my mental health, right? I have a diagnosis of depression and anxiety, so I medicate. I take my meds, right? When things are really out of chaos. I go to therapy regularly, right? I practice breath work and really grounding in my nervous system so that I'm balanced, right? I drink tea and drink herbs like ashwagandha, which helps mediate anxiety, right? And these are little moments and little rituals that you can be doing daily to give you balance in that area. The third area that I talk about in my book is your physical body. And we talked about this a little bit, just about how our body changes with our age. But for most of my life, I was in a very large body. I've lost about 150 pounds over the last few years. And but that's not just the only thing that my physical, and I equated that like, oh, I'm losing weight, I'm eating right, I'm doing all the right things, my physical well. No, have you gone to the doctor's appointment to do your regular checkup? When's the last time you went to the dentist, right? Like when you think about your physical wellness, we're really talking about all of the things, even for me, adornment, right? Like I keep my nails done, I get tattoos, I like jewelry. Like these are things that help me in my physical body, how I see myself. I look in the mirror, right? These are things that are really affirming my physical well-being, and I'm spending time there. And then the fourth area that I talk about is community and relationships. And one of the things that I'm a Cancer, and you a Cancer too, right? Like, we be really attached to people and our emotions. And so sometimes when our relationships are out of whack, everything else is also out of whack, right? And so we have to do an assessment or an audit around how are my relationships fueling me right now? Are they aligned to the things that I value right now? Or are they causing turmoil and chaos right now? Like what are the things that are happening in my relationships that are wreaking havoc on my holistic wellness? And then the fifth element or the fifth layer within the alchemy is around capital. And I say capital specifically because I'm always trying to get to the bag, but capital are things also like network, professional development, is things like your learning. Are you going to school? It's your job, right? What are the things that are helping you to have upward mobility in your life? And what is that? So if you experience job loss, for example, so when I talk about where I was in February, I experienced job loss that affected capital. I broke up with a friend, right? So that was affecting my relationships, right? I established a harsher boundary and it changed that relationship dynamic. I wasn't as active in my prayer life. I stopped going to church for a moment because I was grieving, right, of the loss of the friends, right? I also wasn't eating nutritiously dense food. I was eating junk food because that brought me comfort, right? And then I also wasn't exercising as much, and I wasn't in therapy. So all of these things are meant for chaos. Like I was out of balance in all of these areas. So no matter, that's why in February I had like a breakdown. I had a real breakdown because I was out of balance in all of the areas in my life. And I had to do a real audit and a self-assessment. So when I think about self-acceptance, right, it's about having a clear view of who you are and where you are in those elements in your life, being honest and real about where you are, really looking at yourself in the mirror and taking accountability for it and moving to where you want to be. I could easily avoid accountability and say, well, I'm not, I just am dealing with these things. None of this is my fault, or I have no responsibility here. But real deep self-acceptance means holding yourself accountable to your crap, to your mess, and knowing how you're going to move through that so that you can heal and get better. And so I created, actually on my website, jesshuman.com, it's a freebie. You can go there. I created a self-reflection tool with different self-care practices in each of those elements where you can check and see what you're doing. What are you doing for your mental health? What are you doing for your physical health? And I gave myself a rating. I literally would be like, okay, there are over 60 self-care practices on this tool. And I'll be like, in my physical wellness, I did really well. I was exercising all the time. I was eating well, whatever. I got a really high score in that area. But in my mental and emotional, I got like 0. So I was able to hold myself accountable and accept where I was so that I could move forward. And I think that what is important around mental well-being and mental health is that real reflection and looking deeply at who you are so that you can move into who you want to be.
That's real. That was, look, I got snaps up for you because all of that was so real. And a lot of times people don't look at health holistically. Because of being in the healthcare space, I do end up looking at the holistic individual. You know, sometimes we have the 5 pillars of health, or, you know, up to 7. I think I've seen as many as like 12 or something like that. And looking at the interdependency of how all of those elements of alchemy that you just talked about, how that contributes to a whole, healthy, happy individual. And also talking about how, you know, you walked us through. There was the job loss, but then that had a cascading effect for everything else. And there was the loss, and then the thing with the friend. Hashtag everybody can't go. But that's real. You have those feelings, you have that grief, you have that guilt behind like, dang, should I give them one more chance, when you know in your heart of hearts it's like, yeah, no, I know what the answer is, but I don't want to make this choice. And you know, that on top of other stressors, it can just, like you said, the best word to describe it is exactly what you said: chaos. When, you know, 2 or 3 of those things, and sometimes if something very serious happens in just one of those areas in your life, and it's like, well, I'm doing so great at all this other stuff, like, what's the problem? You really have to look at all 5 of those areas so that you can see holistically, where are you missing something? I mean, to a certain degree, if we just go by the 5 pillars that you just touched on, that's 20% if you slice it up in a pie. If there's 20% of any vessel that's supposed to hold liquid, hold some sand, hold any kind of solids, and you take that 20% of a side of a bowl out of there, whatever you have in there, if you ain't spilled all of it, you gonna spill most of it. Even if you turn it sideways to try to keep that little bit of water left in there while you're trying to run to wherever it is that you're going, you still, so many things have come tumbling out. So I really love the way that you walked us through those 5 areas. And I would encourage you guys to take a look at, you know, I always tell y'all, take y'all notes, rewind, run it back, play it back. Make sure that in those 5 areas, like, I know we've gone over things similar before, but it never hurts to review it again. Because when you review it and you write it down and you look at it right now, you may find that some of those areas where you were having some trouble a month ago, 2 months ago, 3 months ago, you may find that you need to shift your focus on what area of your life you need to improve on, what season you're in right now. So make sure that you rewind back, mark down those 5 areas, and take some time with yourself, and really think about it. I would guesstimate an activity like that. I would say don't be surprised if you put a good, like literally a strong 60 to 120 minutes into doing something like that. You don't have to take the full 2 hours, but you could easily sit there for an hour doing an exercise like that. So, another thing we always talk about around here is talking about that self-care. When you were talking about being aware of yourself and what that looks like moving into self-acceptance, I felt like that was important to bring up and talk with you about today, because it really hadn't clicked for me how that connects to being able to be successful in practicing self-care every day. If you aren't aware of what you need or aware of, your seasons, what you're going through at the time, it makes it just that much harder to practice your self-care every day. So, what are some of the ways that you practice self-care every day? What are some other tools or techniques that you use in the ebbs and flows of life so that you can make sure that that is fulfilled?
Yeah. And I really appreciate this question, because I think that, one, people think that self-care is a big lavish vacation, and that is not something that you can integrate into your daily lived experience. And yes, some self-care is going to Jamaica in January, yes, that is a part of self-care. But the reality is, you can't conserve your energy for this one point every 4 months that you're taking a big lavish vacation, because that's not sustainable. And so I am constantly, I am a decadent, luxurious woman, and I love spoiling myself every day. And it's not like lavish things, right? So I started this really simply with actually Queen Afua's Sacred Woman Detox. It's a 21-day journey, and the hardest, most difficult thing about it is probably the clean eating part of it. You have to cut out literally everything and take all of these like vitamin supplements. But the other hardest part is, she calls them the sacred hours. And between 4 a.m. and 6 a.m., you get up and you do your sacred work. And what that sacred work is, I had to take a bath every day. You ran a ritual bath every day. You put essential oils in it, your Epsom salt in there. You're soaking your body, because your body is a temple, and it is your divinity on earth, right? You're going to spend time with her. You had to, after your bath, you do your yoga and kundalini, like womb space opener exercises. And that is like to really tap into your internal womanhood, your internal goddess energy. You spend time at your altar or your prayer space, talking and connecting not only with who you believe God is, and I'm saying this to be inclusive of everyone, but also your ancestors, right? The folks that are in your blood, in your lineage, that's carrying you through. And then you eat certain foods in the morning and drink certain teas in the morning. So there's this whole 2-hour ritual every day that for 21 days you do. And while that might not be sustainable forever, right? Like I might not be able to do 3 hours every day when you're trying to build a career and doing all of these things. What it did teach me are that there are rituals, I call them rituals, or practices that I can embed every day, whether that be, I'm going to drink tea every day for 5 minutes. I'm going to speak positive affirmations into my tea so that I'm literally consuming this positive energy into myself. And I'm going to spend this 5 minutes every morning just for me. And I've created I never used to have teas. I have a whole collection of teas now, because in that moment, I want to be able to take what I really need in that moment and enjoy it. And I want it to be pleasurable. And I even have different honeys now. I have different types of honeys that go in my tea. So like it has become really a part of my ritual. I also bought myself a foot bath, because I might not be able to take a full bath every day, right? But I can soak my feet and do an ionic foot bath. And it has a timer. I can sit there. I can do some work while I'm sitting and soaking my feet. I soak my feet. And that removes toxins from my body. I I oil my body intentionally, right? Like, so I do castor oil in my belly button, which helps remove toxins. I use, in the morning time, I'm using coconut oil on my skin to not only moisturize, but to provide some like antimicrobial things. And then in the evening, I'm lathering up on shea butter to like keep me sleeping and moisturize at night, right? Even the way that I moisturize my skin is a part of my self-care. I brush my teeth a certain way. I floss my gums a certain way. Every practice that I do that is maintenance or hygienic for yourself is a form of self-care. That self-maintenance work is, what do you need to feel your best? In order for me to feel my highest energetically, I know I need to feel good. My skin need to be soft. I need to taste and smell good. I need to enjoy things that give me pleasure. I love a good retail therapy, but I lost my job in February. So me going and spending money is not always the best self-care form anymore, because it might cause more stress. But what are the ways that I can barter and exchange energy with my friends so that I'm able to still, I have friends that make body scrubs, right? And I'm able to exchange energy with her to get the body scrub that she made, so I can give myself a body scrub while I give her the plants that my wife grows. Like, there are different ways that we can create community and reciprocal care so that we're still able to provide ourselves love. It's just, what's your relationship with yourself looking like? And I was at a conference recently, and that was one of the primary questions. And one of my thought partners was like, well, I'm dating myself and I'm falling in love with myself. And that means that I'm eating the foods that I enjoy. I am taking myself for massages. I am soaking myself. And I was like, I'm doing the same thing. I'm dating myself. I'm falling in love with myself. And that's what self-care every day looks like for me. It's those moments, even if it's 5 minutes today, because I don't have enough time to do my full 3-hour ritual. I'm going to spend that 5 minutes falling in love with myself and speaking love into myself. And so that's how I integrate self-care sustainably daily.
I love that. I love that. And just with the note you just ended on, with taking out that you said just 5 minutes. You guys, sometimes 5 minutes is all that it takes. She reiterated a few things. If y'all need to go back, watch a couple of episodes. Go back. Shout out to Self Care with Aisha. Shout out to Mel T.
Mm-hmm.
You are the luxury item, okay? You are the luxury item. Hashtag get on that. Shout out to Mel T. And when you're thinking about you being that luxury item, don't forget that, like she said, this does not have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be expensive, and it doesn't have to take a lot of your time. 5 minutes intentionally, taking an intentional 5 minutes to yourself, for yourself every day. Mamas, I'm talking to y'all. I'm talking to y'all, mamas. Because once you get some littles running around, focus changes, shifts happen, so that you can take that time for yourself, just 5 minutes, and you can pick your one thing, so you don't got a choice to make every day. Y'all know me, I'm all over the place. I got my whole list of all of the different things I can do depending on what kind of stress I had that day. I'm like, am I gonna go sit on my balcony? Am I gonna enjoy some guac and some chips? Am I gonna have a glass of wine? Am I gonna read a book? Well, am I going to read a self-help book, or am I going to read a book that is a fiction book, and let my mind wander? Will I get my nails done, or will I just allow myself to enjoy getting my hair retied without taking my work with me, or anything like that? But just make sure that you have that 5 minutes, and if it will suit you better to do the same exact thing every day, because that takes one less decision from your list of things that can give you decision fatigue. Do it that way, and that can be a place to start, and that doesn't have to be the only thing. And when you talk about dating yourself, girl, I've been dating myself for so long, because and the thing that I will always tell people when they would be like, "Oh my God, Jess, like, so who were you with?" Me, myself, and I, all three of us was there. And they're like, "Oh my God, you really went to such and such by yourself?" Yes. And one of the things that it really solidified it for me, that I'm like, no, I'm okay with going alone if I have to. there was an exhibit back, well, even to this day, I'm obsessed with Egyptology, the pyramids, all of the tombs, and all of the folklore and mythology and everything. And there were some things being released from the British Museum for the first time in something like 70 years or something crazy. And they were only doing 4 cities around the entire world before these items were going back into the vault. And they were able to sign a deal with the government of Egypt to also have some artifacts from Egypt that had never left the country to travel to Chicago, LA, London, and Shanghai. That's it. At the time, I didn't have Shanghai money. I didn't have London money. I ain't have LA money. So I guess that left Chicago. And the exhibit was only there for it was about 8 weeks or something like that. And so people were like, oh my gosh, I know you love that type of thing. I'll go with you. I'll go with you. I'll go with you. We got to the last weekend of the run. Nobody was still available. And I had a choice to make. When I clock out of work tonight, do I go ahead and go see this stuff that I know in my heart of hearts I want to see? That little elementary school Jessie, this thing would just blow her mind? Or do I not go because can't nobody else go with me? And I decided to myself, I was like, if I let this opportunity pass, I'm not going to get it back. Wasn't nobody going to feel bad enough for me to send me to LA, Shanghai, or London. And from then up, that was my first wild thing that I did alone. And it's like, wait, you in Chicago? You in Chicago? Who are you with? Myself? Wait, no, you're a girl, you're a woman. You can't just travel alone. And guess what? It was all right. And I had an amazing time. I had so much fun seeing the things that I wanted to see, trying out restaurants and things that I wanted to try. I didn't have to get the opinion of anybody else. I didn't have to be diplomatic, or I could just do what I wanted to do.
I love myself. Yeah, I love my own company. I love dating myself.
Okay.
I don't want to have to deal with other people's opinions.
Look, and that part too, the opinions. And like sometimes some of the stresses that we have, we don't realize how much of other people's opinions that we're taking on, or how many more expectations from others that we're taking on. And that's another part that is important about spending time with yourself, being comfortable enough with yourself so that you can even get to the point. I talked to y'all about the inability to self-assess. You can't get to a real self-assessment if you don't even be with self long enough to do a full assessment. Okay. So yeah, that's what that reminded me of. And I'm like, shoot, shout out to you. Keep refalling in love with yourself. We talk about renewing vows with spouses, or like, oh, make sure that you keep dating to keep the spice alive. Even when you pair it up and you got your person, keep dating yourself. Keep the spark alive with you. And that's like really important. That's really important.
Yeah. And I love what you just said about like, are you spending enough time with yourself to even know? How do you know what you value, what you like, what you enjoy if you're not spending time alone? I think that a lot of folks, and we're all on these phones, we're all in these like network space, we're not spending enough time alone. Like, let's normalize being alone for a little bit of our life. Like you have to get to know yourself in order to really bring that and accept who it is into the world. And I think that we've lost some of that.
We definitely have. And when you don't dig into that makes you, I don't want to say easy fodder, but that's the best thing that I could come up with right now. It makes you easy fodder for having weak boundaries, and taking on energy from other people that you should not be taking on, or shouldering things that it never belonged to you in the first place. Because when you don't know yourself enough, you talked about those values, likes and dislikes, all of those type of things. You don't even know where to place the boundaries at. And around here, we talk about boundaries all the time, because even though everybody can't go, there are healthy steps that I encourage everybody to take before you get to that point of removing yourself or removing the other person. And boundaries is one of those real big things. And so, I saw one of your posts recently and it cracked me up when you were like, no, you can't be my friend. And I was like, oh, come on with the sassy and the teaching, okay? And I was like, this reads good. And I had to run it back a few times because I was like, oh, these are some really good points in here. And it reminded me of all of the different ways that we talk about boundaries here and why I have these everybody can't go convos. Because my
Right.
story is just one story. Everybody's
Mhm.
life is different. And I don't want people to just have one set of tools or application to create change and transformation in their lives. So
Mhm.
when we're talking about boundaries, what ways do you encourage others to set boundaries within friendships or within close social confines?
Yeah. And that, so that's one thing that I've learned. So because I'm public, and I'm public in a very vulnerable way because I value humanity, right? Like I want y'all to know that this is not easy. I am navigating stuff. We all are, but I'm normalizing that stuff. In fact, in my show, I know that I call them shit shows in my book. I'm navigating shit shows in my life, and I normalize them and I share them vulnerably and publicly so that folks can feel more seen and validated so that they can accept their own shit. And that's who I am, right? And because of that, that's the space that I take up and I occupy. I think a lot of folks form close connection to me in ways that are not real. We don't know each other. I share things. You don't know the real me. You know what I'm sharing, but you don't know me, and you don't really know what I like. And honestly, I'm a Cancer. I like a lot of alone time. Like if you know that about me, you would know that about me. And so there's a lot of times that people are seeking your energy. Everybody has something to offer. You're always bringing things into the world, and so people want to be and sit in your energy. And like, actually, there's a quote that I just got at that conference that I went to, and you need to recognize that that there is a price for um sitting. Like, we're not Walmart. This is the quote I found. It was like, we're not Walmart. They need to make an appointment to sit in your energy sometimes. You cannot be fully accessible to everybody at all times. You have to have some exclusivity in your circle, in your network. And so when I'm telling people that they have to establish boundaries, and helping them to establish those boundaries, it's really about knowing what you need from relationship with people, what you offer in relationship with people, and what you need in relationship to self and other areas in your life. Because I just, quite honestly, I don't have capacity for, like, I set up time with friends. I love hanging out with my friends, but like, Jess alone needs about 3 hours to herself every day. That's just spending time by myself, decompressing. Then I have a wife. I have a home life, right? My wife needs my time too every day. And then I have pets and dogs. I don't have kids yet, but eventually I will. And they need my time and energy every day. And I work a job, and I need to sleep. I need to eat. And there are all these things. So at the end of the day, how much time do I actually have to give to these external relationships is not a lot every day. So I manage frequency of contact as one boundary, right? Like, how frequently can we actually be in community together? I'm setting realistic expectations around that. I also am managing around what that point of contact looks like, because sometimes, no, I might not be able to come over and sit and watch a movie with you, but maybe I could do a 30-minute call. Like, and maybe that means that you might get a 30-minute call more frequently, because relationships are also about what the other person needs as well. Because if you're auditing what you need from a relationship and what you desire from a relationship, you're attracting that. The reciprocal energy exchanges that you're able to provide someone else's needs. And so some of my friends, they need more points of contact, but I can't give them extended time. Like, all right, we can talk every day. We can do a little FaceTime every day. I check in with you, check on your day. You want to make sure somebody cares about you every day. That's one thing you need. You don't have a partner yet. I get that. And so I'll check with you every day, but you might not get 3 hours, like, and I need, as your friend, I'm gonna need a 3 hour block one time where we do shopping, food, and I need that type of intimacy with me. And so, like, I have those conversations around what I need, what my friends need, and I meet them where they're at, and I set the boundaries around frequency, the type of contact, right? The things that we do, the things that we say to each other. I think a lot of times We don't share feedback around how we talk to one another. You think it's fun and cute to be joking and saying mean things. A lot of you are just scared mean girls hiding behind these tactics. You don't have to be mean to me. I'm soft. I'm loving. I want you to love on me. If I do something wrong, hold me accountable, but love me through it. You don't need to make me out to be the villain. And I don't accept people making me out to be the villain anymore. If you're set on misunderstanding me, you don't know me, because that's not my heart, and you know my heart. If you don't know my heart, you don't know me. And so I am establishing boundaries around how people talk to me, how they talk about me when I'm not there. I set boundaries around how often they see me, how they see me. I set boundaries around what we value and what we do together and what we talk about. I don't share all my I used to do this because I'm a Cancer and I talk a lot and I'm vulnerable. I used to tell all my business to everybody. I don't tell all my business to everybody anymore. I have certain friends that I talk about certain issues with, and that's it. And I recognize, because not everybody can give me what I need around that issue. And a lot of times people in their own pain points might project stuff back to you in harmful ways just because they're not fully healed yet. And then that's going to affect how I feel about myself, because now you're shaming me for something I've disclosed to you in our friendship, and I'm not with that either. And so it's been a lot of learning in relationships, but I've been able to navigate just by having an awareness of what I don't want to experience again, what I need from my friendships, and what I'm willing to offer and give my friendships. So it's also that understanding of knowing your worth and your value and what energy you're bringing. Because remember, we're not Walmart. Sometimes people got to make an appointment to sit in our energy.
That's so real. That is so real. One of the things that the thought that it sparked for me was, for some people, they will hear rules, 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 rules. But if that's the way that you think about what you just heard, I want you to also notice she talked about everything that she gave for boundaries for herself and boundaries for how she allows herself to be treated. There is care for the other person in each of those boundaries. One of the words that you brought up that sparked this thought for me, because I always say, like, boundaries are for you. They aren't, to control other people, which they still aren't, y'all. But we also talk about how when you set those boundaries, that is a part of you showing care for people who sometimes they just are not there yet. And sometimes you kind of have to take the lead in setting the boundary there so that it's a healthier situation for both yourself and for the other person, whether they know it or not. And when you talked about, the way that you communicate with each other and talk to each other, and having certain friends to talk to about certain stuff, like there's a certain care and compassion in that, where you aren't going to a person who is not equipped and you just back in that dump truck. I done told y'all, I will tell somebody in a heartbeat, don't put that dump truck on me. Don't put it on me. And shout out to my BU fam, okay? And like, if you don't have certain boundaries set, sometimes you're the person that is overstepping unsaid or on unknown boundaries because you're going to the wrong place as a resource. The person made that, of course, everyone holds value in a different way.
Yep.
But if you have not assessed yourself, you cannot then start to assess others and what value and resource that they are to you. And you may be inadvertently going to someone else, draining them, because and you thinking, well, if the boundaries is for me, what that got to do with me draining them? If you're going to the wrong resource, you're not going to try to put a square peg in a round hole. If you go to Europe, certain countries in Africa, you are not taking an American plug and jamming that thing into the outlets that are available. You could do it. You could try.
Yep.
And even if you got a cheap adapter, I done seen what happens, and it is not pretty. Sparks fly immediately. And you got about 3 seconds to go ahead and get that thing up out of there before you start a fire. Okay. And I want you guys to like really visualize that, or YouTube it, because that's exactly what happens in friendships and or relationships when you're taking the wrong thing to the wrong person. A few weeks ago, couple months ago, we talked about that when we were going through diving deeply into marriage and relationship. You can't take every marital issue to someone who is not a good resource And it's not that they're not a good resource because they're not a good person, because they just may be ill equipped for that specific area of your life. You need to seek
Yep.
wise counsel. I talked about that back in February. We aren't just seeking wise counsel when we're talking about our marriages or relationships. You also need to seek wise counsel when you need advice, or you need to vent, or you actually need to have a conversation about your career, about what to do next if in the mental or emotional health space. How
Yep.
are you tackling like the thing that you want to do with your physical body?
Yep.
Do you need somebody to speak to about your spiritual journey? All of those different pillars of alchemy that Jess has taken us through, like you should have somebody that, and it doesn't have to be 5 different people. People
Yep.
can hold 2 or 3 of those spaces, but don't go to the spirituality person to ask about your physical body, and that's not their expertise. So I
Right.
just really love how you had like just that list of all of those places where you have those boundaries. And it sounds like, for me, to me, the makings for a very healthy and fun and thriving relationship connections, because of the like every boundary that you named. It sounds like it wasn't just for you, that it was for both of you guys. And I love how much compassion came through in that, because sometimes it's not that easy to hear straight away when we talk about our boundaries. And I really just love that about you.
Yeah, that's what, and you said something that like made me recall some content. Someone said that rules are for other people, boundaries are for you. And rules, yes, I could say, for example, I'm like, I don't want to talk to you every day, right? Like that's a rule. We're not going to talk every day. I want to talk to you once a week. That's a rule. Like that, that's our standard. And that's for you, Jess. Don't call me every day. We talking once a week. But what happens when Jess follows me up and calls me every day and I answer the phone? My boundary is that I don't answer the phone, right? Like I am actively enforcing that rule that we've set in our dynamic so that we can follow through and hold one another accountable for it. And so boundaries are for you, but it's also for your relationship dynamic so that you can give better to that relationship. If I'm feeling depleted just because I'm a full on introvert, right? You saw me in Jamaica. We was outside and I would deflate. I gotta go I took 6 baths when we were there, right? And if I am giving and violating my boundaries consistently over and over and over again, I'm going to be resentful in my relationship with you. I'm going to be mean. I'm going to be disassociating. I'm not going to be able to give you from my overflow anymore. I'm going to give you from a depleted place. And that's why boundaries really matter. And they are about you. It's about you holding yourself accountable to what you need in those dynamics.
Yes, yes, that is real. That is so true. I love the way that you wrap that together. Um, and y'all, it was just so many nuggets that you've been dropping this whole time. Like, y'all gonna have to run this one back. I know I gotta run this one back because I'm like, oh yeah, no, it's been a couple of times. And I'm like, oh, let me write that down. So I gotta run it back so I can take my notes, y'all. In a minute, I'm about to just start taking my notes while we on with y'all live. Y'all, I'm gonna just be like, hold on, y'all, and get my notebook and set it right here, okay? So
We in class.
as we come to a close today, what are your favorite ways to inspire and encourage others?
I think being myself authentically is probably my most natural way that I inspire people, and that comes with a lot of work of acceptance, right? Like I know who I am, I know my shortcomings, I know the mess that I come with. I'm not perfect. I'm never saying I'm just human. My brand is literally just human. I am human AF, you know. um, but I accept all of me and all of my bumps, nooks, and crannies, in my chaos, in my depressed states, in my anxious states, in my happy, excited states, in my loving, caring states. And so the way that I inspire is by being myself fully. I embrace who I am fully. I talk about things that make people uncomfortable. I talk about things that people shy away from, that might be taboo, because I don't think that we need to hide anything. I recognize that we have to be digestible in different parts, right? Like I'm not going to talk about certain things in the workplace because that might not be professional, or I might not talk about certain things with my children because that might not be appropriate. I recognize those boundaries that we have to navigate, but I don't think that we need to do anything in the dark and in shame anymore. We don't need to be alone. And so I inspire people to look at themselves fully and embrace themselves, and accept themselves, and that's like being authentically me is pretty much my best way to inspire. I also I'm creative, and so I like making content, and so I turn like a lot of my the one that you're talking about where I don't want to be friends. Like I love that voice, and so I just like turn that into something saying like, don't take no shade, but no, I don't want to hang out after this. Like that's just what it is. I want to go to sleep. I want to take a bath.
That's real. That's real. Well, with what you just said is your answer to that question. That sounds about close to perfect as you can get. Because I always say, only God is perfect. But if I could just aim for right up under that. And the reason why I say that sound is close to perfect as you can get, because you are the only you that God has made. You are the only you on this earth. And when you fully accept that, live in that, and move in your purpose, you it can't get no better than that. And so I love that. And I love you showing up for us. Thank you so much for taking the time out with me, with our audience and followers. I really appreciate having this conversation with you, and shoot, just the exchange of energy. Y'all know people be feeling my little social meter. Now I just feel warm, fuzzy, and happy. And I just really, I'm really grateful that you took the time with us today. And thank you for all of the nuggets you dropped, all of those gems that you dropped. This has really been, look, this one for the books, y'all. This is one for the books.
I appreciate you holding space and inviting me, Jess. And I'm very excited that we're connected.
Of course, of course. All right, you guys. So we're going to go ahead and call it a wrap for today. We will see you guys next Wednesday for another Everybody Can't Go Convo, as we are wrapping up Mental Health Awareness Month. We'll see you guys next week.
Peace.